can use. The author's name is Alice Matthews. And so this is the book that I found, but this is where it opened up. The light's very bright. Let's see. Can you guys see that? I'm going to put it there. This is where it opened up. You see that? Isn't that cool? This is where it opened up. But if you look closely, the chapter is Deborah. Right? The chapter is Deborah. And I'm like, okay, mind you, I haven't seen this picture in 2 years, nor have I opened up or even read this book in more than 2 years. I pulled it out 2 years ago because I was going to read it, but I never finished reading it. And so anyway, so I said, okay, Lord, 3 Deborahs in the less than 24 hours. After Talitha prophesied and told me something about Deborah, what is it that you want me to know about Deborah? And so I started reading, and I'm just going to read this. When I tell you I started reading, I got goosebumps. I was like, oh, okay. One thing that it says here about Deborah is, it says, it's talking about the task, the task that God gave Deborah. And the task that God gave Deborah was to be a prophetess. And people, everyone who prophesies speaks to men for their strengthening, encouragement, and comfort. But the job is not easy, right? So basically it's saying people didn't like Deborah, but Deborah didn't care that people didn't like her. She wasn't a people person because she was doing the assignment that God called for her to do. She did not care what people thought. And it says that was the task that God gave Deborah, to speak to men and women in Israel for their strengthening, for their encouragement, for their comfort. He gave her knowledge of the future and insight into the ways that she could bring home to the Israelites. She was a prophetess. The second thing, now this is what really blew me. Right now, do you remember? In the beginning, I said this. So let me stay on track here. So the question that Candace asked is, what's the best way to get immediate clarity? I said to let it go, right? Well, I asked something a long time ago about, God, what do you want me to do? Am I a wife first, or am I this businesswoman first? How do I submit, and do I shut my business down, or how do I do this? Because I feel like I have a huge calling on my life, but I also feel like I have a calling to be a wife. So how do I do this? And I asked that prayer and I let it go, which is the same as asking for clarity in a relationship. Different type of clarity. It can be many different things that you're asking for. But so in this book, it says the second thing that we see in Judges, chapter 4, verse 4 through 5, is that Deborah was the wife of Lapideth. I think I'm saying it right, Lapideth. We know nothing about Lapideth apart from the fact that he was married to Deborah. From that fact, however, we know that Deborah was not a single woman who could give her whole life to ministry for God. I'm going to pause here for a second. Okay, I was asking God for a while. I'm like, God, when I was single, my whole life was dedicated to my business. I woke up, I lived, I breathed, I slept, everything about me was teaching. And so now, what am I supposed to do? I literally remember praying that. But this book clearly says that Deborah was not a single woman who could give her whole life to ministry for God. She was a wife, and she had responsibilities of the home. She had a husband to care for. She was not a free agent who could ignore the tasks that take up much of the time and energy of most women. And I said, wow. Then it says, but note, the order of the sacred text, or the order of the word, she was first a prophetess, then a wife. She had a balancing act to practice day after day that she must have struggled with and conflicted in her schedule. But she was God's spokesperson first. I just said, okay, Lord, thank you. Now there's so